皆さん、こんにちは。日本の不動産の冒険をご覧いただきありがとうございます。Thank you for joining me this week on my adventures in Japanese real estate. And it has been a couple of weeks since I last released an episode, and there's an actual reason for that, a pretty exciting reason, which I want to get into after the introduction. Hi everybody, before the introduction, I kind of teased some exciting news, and no, that isn't about the snow that's behind me in Hakuba, though we still have plenty of snow. It was quite an amazing winter, and it's going to be an amazing spring for the skiers. I'll certainly be out there myself, but that's not the news I wanted to share. Actually, it's something having to do with this program. When I started this program a few months ago, I guess, I really wanted to share experiences that I had working with Japanese realtors and acquiring properties in Japanese real estate over the past 4 years. And I've done that to some degree. Hopefully it's been useful, but I really wanted to provide a resource for people who are interested in doing that, people who are looking into doing that, or just simply have an interest in the topic. Pretty early on, I started to get requests from people to operate as a proxy buyer. I talked a little bit about what a proxy buyer is in the previous episodes. Basically, it's a person who can sort of facilitate the buying process, work with the agents, and provide language support, etc. for the buyers. Very good service. Some people need it. It's certainly not required, but it is something that people are out there providing, and some people have asked me if I'd be interested in providing that service too. Well, the fact is, I'm not against providing that service if I can provide a very good service. And that is actually what's very important to me. And the whole time, I thought that rather than just simply providing a proxy buyer service, wouldn't it be amazing if I could actually work with a licensed Japanese real estate transaction professional, somebody who is licensed to work on and do the deals in Japanese real estate. And that's a requirement for Japanese real estate. I've kind of gone over that in previous episodes as well, but most of the proxy buyers obviously are simply working as representatives for the buyers. And I really wanted to go a step further and actually provide a consultancy type of service with an actual licensed real estate transaction specialist. And the very good news is, over the past couple of weeks, I've actually been able to work with such a transaction specialist, and we have partnered together, and so we're going to be able to provide this service and actually develop a buyer's consultancy, which I had sort of in mind the whole time. The amazing thing about this, I think, is that we can work directly with sellers' agents. We have some really vast resources that we can take advantage of here in Japan, and working with this licensed transaction specialist just makes those resources that much larger. For example, a few things that we can now do. I've told you before about the clearinghouses that you can look through to find houses in various regions in Japan. Sometimes they're local, sometimes they're regional, and there are a few that are national, like Lethal Homes or At Home, etc. I've talked about those before, but just like probably in most other countries, there is also a database of all of the listings that are out there available that only agents can see. The public is not welcome to view this website or these listings. This is something that only a transaction specialist can actually access. Well, because we are working now with the transaction specialist, we have access to that list, which means that the number of properties that are out there that are available are much, much greater. The fact that a property comes up for sale and then quickly gets bought up and never really makes it to the public, well, we're going to be able to see that as well. So monitoring the possible options becomes much bigger because we have access to this database, and we also can communicate with the seller's agents very, very quickly, long before they ever even appear for the public. So this is one aspect that I think is really exciting. We'll find the places that simply are not being listed for the public at all. Of course, we can do what standard proxy buyers will do, such as visit the property, take video, take pictures, etc. We can also arrange for inspections and that sort of thing. So this is something that we know the type of inspections, we know the inspectors, so that we can actually bring inspectors in, having a look at the house from the buyer's perspective. Of course, it's not free, but those kinds of things can be arranged as we go. But the inspections can be a possibility. Also, we can just simply show up at the house, take video, take pictures, get information from the seller's agents, be able to access the information from the listings itself, which is something that real estate transaction specialists will give us that opportunity to build. We can also research properties and find the owners. So sometimes you might see an akia, or a house that seems vacant, some kind of property that we don't know who owns it. Maybe it's even a piece of land. It's very, very difficult to find the owner. But this is something that a transaction specialist can also do. Yeah, the general public can do it to some degree as well, but a transaction specialist has more tools in this regard, can do it more efficiently. And so there are times when we can actually find the owner of the house, or at least find out who the owner of the house on record is, and see if that person is even frankly still alive. And so these kinds of things can also help find properties that aren't actually for sale. So that can be a very exciting aspect of what we can do. Of course, we can negotiate directly with the seller. This is something that more or less a buyer's agent would do, and we have this capacity as well. So we're operating inside the realm of what would be the buyer's side of the sale. So there's the seller's agent and the buyer's agent. If I were to put it sort of in US terms, it's a little bit different, but the dynamic is really the same. And so we would be operating on behalf of the buyer from a legitimate standpoint of being licensed transaction specialists ourselves. So this is very good. That negotiation can be a bit smoother. Also, researching problems that might exist with the deeds, problems that exist perhaps with liens on the house. I've talked about that before. Borders, condition of the house that needs to be addressed, things that are the buyer's responsibility, things that are the seller's responsibility. All of those types of things all enter into that type of negotiation. So we have a lot more possibility to firmly and strongly negotiate in those types of negotiations. Sure, price negotiation as well. Price negotiation is very different in Japan, but we are better positioned now to understand that price negotiation. It's not that they don't do it, they certainly do, but the way in which it's done can be very different. The way in which real estate business in general is done can be very different. I've talked about that in previous episodes as well, and I will continue to talk about that and get that a little bit more clear as we go. Another thing that this will allow us to do is operate kind of as a liaison. So liaison, of course, between the seller, between the seller's agent, of course, those aspects, but also a buyer needs a liaison with sometimes the neighborhood. There are neighborhood associations, there are community groups, there are even town expectations that need to be understood and need to be addressed even before the house is bought. A lot of times sellers are reluctant to sell to foreigners because they feel like the foreigners will not understand those responsibilities well, and they won't necessarily follow up on those responsibilities, and this can become a problem for the community. So they're very concerned about that, and that's a place where we can research these. We can find out what those responsibilities are, how to address those responsibilities. We can let you know what you're expected to do, and we can operate basically as a go-between between those the sellers group, the community group, the neighborhood groups, etc., so that everybody's comfortable with you purchasing this house or this property in this location. This can be very, very difficult and very tricky, and a lot of sellers, frankly, will not sell to people if they don't feel like they're going to mesh well with the community, and that, of course, can apply to foreigners or Japanese alike. So that's a very important concern. Another thing that we can certainly do is translate the contracts and translate the conversations between the buyers and the buyer's agents, or sometimes even the sellers will be involved. This is actually very common, that the sellers will actually get involved in the negotiation, and so you may have to have translation between the buyers and the sellers, and certainly sellers, agents, and buyers, and as I mentioned before, community leaders or neighborhood associations, etc. So all of those conversations might need to happen through a translator. Obviously, documents will also need to be translated. You're going to have to work with scriveners, the actual legal side of things. We can arrange for that. We even have a team of scriveners that we work with, so we know how to get those contracts done. Worst case scenario, we write the contract. Now, usually the seller is going to write the contract, so that's usually not really a concern of the buyer's consultancy. But because we do have a licensed transaction specialist, worst comes to worst, we write the contracts. So this is actually a great opportunity for people to get into the market. And I am so excited to be able to offer this level of service. I think that this is relatively unprecedented. And I don't mean to say that I'm the only person out there doing it. I'm sure there are other people out there doing it. I don't know of any, but there may well be. And that's great. I'm not looking to compete with anybody else. I am only simply looking to offer this service to people who might find it valuable. So if you are a person who might find this valuable, I hope you'll reach out to me. One of the ways to reach out to me is just simply go to hakuba365.com, my website. There's a few things about me there, but one of these is actually now searching for the Akio, or searching for the property in Japan. There's a questionnaire there that you can fill out, give me more detail about what you're looking for, etc. And then we'll be in touch via email and eventually probably doing Zoom calls, etc. to get to the point where we are communicating on a regular basis and we really understand each other, make sure that we know what we're looking for. So a lot of that will happen obviously in the face-to-face, and also I'll explain how the whole fee structure works and that sort of thing. But another way is just simply hakuba365.info@gmail.com. Just send me a direct email, not a problem there. This is all very exciting stuff for me because I really would like to offer this service. I think it's a valuable service. I think that it's more than what a standard proxy buyer can do for you, and I really wanted to be able to go all out and provide as much of this service as I can. It looks like we're going to be able to do that. Everything's moving ahead. I'm very excited to announce it, and I look forward to hearing from you if you are really interested in purchasing a house in Japan. The show is coming back next week with more episodes. I'm going to talk about the neighborhood, or the show is coming back, of course, next week. I promised you, I think on the last episode, that I was going to talk about the areas of Japan. I will do that in the next episode. I'm also going to talk about some other features that you might be interested in neighborhoods, and things that make quality of life. I'll probably talk about that in the next episode. So the location is going to become a two-part series that I'm going to start right away. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to try to get to that sooner rather than later because I know you've been waiting for a while. But I really wanted to announce this bit of information because I'm so excited about it myself, and I hope that you're a little bit excited about it too. Of course, I'm going to keep plugging this because I do think it's valuable. I think that we can really offer a really valuable service, but I really wanted to introduce it full on today. So thanks for your patience. I appreciate it. Arigatou gozaimashita. See you next week.